Well, heidi-ho, and welcome to the Sovereign CEO podcast. I am Caleb Jones, and I teach people just like you how to set up location-independent businesses, move to a less bad country, or at least set up an international backup plan and do all these things for very little money. Welcome to the podcast. Today's topic is pretty important, and that is the debate or the things that you hear on the internet about hustle culture. And so hustle culture is basically promoted by guys like Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, Dan Lok, various other people. Those are the big name guys, but there's lots of people who promote this concept of get up really early in the morning, Mark Wahlberg style, get up at 3:30 in the morning, bust your ass, work really fucking hard, 14, 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. Don't take breaks and don't take vacations, and you need to fucking focus, and that's how you get ahead in life. And so if you're not doing that, then of course you're going to be poor, and of course you're going to be miserable. And there has been, in the last few years, I've noticed a backlash against hustle culture. And so all these people coming out with YouTube videos and blog articles and things like that saying, this hustle culture thing is stupid. It's pushed by a bunch of fake business gurus. It's all a bunch of hype. It's extremely destructive. You don't want to do it. Plus it doesn't work. And you shouldn't have to hustle that hard to get what you want in life. It's all a bunch of bullshit. So who's right and who's wrong? Well, it's complicated. Very similar to the who is right and who is wrong, the left versus the right. And as I used to talk about on politics, and you can go look at my blog if you want my old political articles, I would always start out with a political topic, and then I would say the left is wrong. Here's why they're wrong, and I would demonstrate that. Then I would say the problem is the right is also wrong. Here's why they're wrong, and I'd demonstrate that. And I had a recurring theme back then of just because you have two sides of the argument doesn't mean one has to be right. Very often in life, both sides of the argument that you hear about are wrong. Politics is the greatest example of that. The left and right are totally wrong on most political issues, most. So the same thing goes with this hustle culture stuff. On one side, you have these people saying hustle culture is bullshit. You should ignore it. It doesn't work. It's going to screw up your life. It's just a big hassle. It's a big con. It's a fraud. It's just a bunch of branding, and it doesn't work. Well, wrong. You need to work hard in life to get what you want. That is a maxim of life, and that's how that works. And don't worry, I'll cover the other side of this in a minute of why the hustle culture guys are wrong, or at least could be wrong. So don't worry, I'll attack both sides here, but let me attack this side first. As I have discussed many times in my blog articles, on my social media, on my videos, we live in an era right now where men are the laziest they have ever been in all of modern history, perhaps even all of Western history. Not sure about that one, but certainly in terms of all of modern history. And every generation of men in the Western world gets even more lazy and more low testosterone and more feminized and more, I just want to sit around and smoke weed and watch Netflix and I don't want to have to work. And I have never seen it as bad as I've seen it today. And I've been alive for 50 years. My favorite quote is from Dan Pena, who says that he was talking about how he used to train men in the 90s. And he said, when I trained men in the 90s, these were the biggest fucking pussies I have ever seen in my entire life. And he's an old man. And then he says about men today, he goes, men today, if you compare men today to those pussies of the 90s, those pussies of the 90s were gladiators compared to men today. And unfortunately, I hate to say this, he's right. And frankly, women aren't much better at this. It's both genders. It's gotten really bad. And I have wrestled with this throughout my online career since 2009 of running blog articles, then later doing YouTube videos. And if you go back on my blogs, or some of you have been around that long in terms of following my content, you'll see comments on my blogs. Like, for example, I will put a blog post of, 10 books you should read, or the 17 best books I've ever read. And you can go look at those articles if you want, calebjones.com. And I will get comments, and you can read those comments. They're all still there. I kept all my comments of guys saying, I got to read a book. Fuck that. I'm not reading a book. One book. These millennials and Gen Z guys complaining about reading one book. I've read hundreds, if not thousands of books throughout my entire lifetime, starting when I was 18 years old. I devoured books. That's why, one of the many reasons why I became successful early in life in terms of finances. I was making a six-figure income by the time I was 27 years old in 1990s dollars, starting from zero. I didn't have a rich family, quite the opposite. So there you go. I mean, you've got guys and women. I don't want to attack just men here, although I see it more in men, but it's women too. The laziness factor is off the charts, and it's a strong contributor to Western collapse. So yes, we live in a world where you may not like Grant Cardone or Gary Vee's personality or communication style, and they say you got to hustle and grind and all that crap. You may not like that, but unfortunately, and I may not like aspects of that either, Dan Locke, those guys, there's aspects of that I don't like. As a matter of fact, I really don't like it. But they are needed in a culture where laziness is the norm, and laziness has run rampant in our society. So we could use a few people on the internet saying, hey, asshole, you need to get off your ass and get to work. I've been saying that myself for the 13 years I've been a public figure on the internet. You have to get off your ass and get to work. So I have noticed all these people bashing hustle culture and hustle and grind culture and all that stuff are really just looking for a way to be fucking lazy. Not all of them, but a lot of them I've seen are like, well, this is stupid. This is a scam. I'm just going to go back to watching Netflix and playing video games and, jerking off to porn and smoking weed. And no, you have to work. Nothing big in life will be accomplished by being lazy. You have to, unfortunately, I'm sorry, get off your dumb ass and work. This applies to all areas of your life, by the way. This applies to your woman life. This applies to your fitness life. God knows I'm going through that right now. You have to put in the hours and put in the work, even on days you don't feel like it. That's how this works, and that is how success works, and that is always how it will work. It will never change. You have to work hard. Now, let me flip the argument a little bit. When I say you have to work hard, am I saying you have to work 14 hours a day, 7 days a week? No, you don't. So once I achieved some level of financial success, for many, many, many years, I made a six-figure income, 6 figures 20 years ago, which is a lot more than 6 figure today. I made a 6-figure income, and I took 3-day weekends every weekend. I only worked 4 days a week. So I'd work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I would not work like 14 hours a day. I'd work, but in a normal work day, I would take Fridays off, Saturdays off, and Sundays off. I did this during the time when my kids were little, when I was still married in my first marriage. And I made plenty of money, and I lived a really good life financially working just 4 days a week. So no, you don't have to bust your ass. But I had to work those 4 days a week. And I was very focused during those 4 days a week. It's not like Monday through Thursday, I was farting around at my desk, checking email and watching YouTube videos and no, I was fucking working. My head was down and I was focused. Today I work 6 days a week. Only in the last 2 years have I started going back to taking 1 day off. And I had to be convinced by my mentors and my coaches to do that. So I've been doing that now for about 2 years. So I work 6 days a week, and I've talked about this before. My typical day that is not a day off is I get up in the morning, I do my morning routine. I have YouTube videos on my morning routine and my morning work routine at this channel, Sovereign CEO. You can check those out. And that includes, by the way, exercising, all that crap. And then I get to my office, my home office, I put my head down and I fucking work. And I work all day long until the early evening. Then I give my wife 2 hours. That's the agreement we have. So my 1 day off a week I spend with her, but it's when it's not that day. The other 6 days a week, she gets 2 hours for me at night. We have dinner and then we watch a show because that's what she likes to do. She gets her 2 hours and then I go right back to work. So maybe 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., right? 2 hours. 7 p.m., I go right back to work and I am working all night until I go to bed. So I work hard and I put in long hours. Now, as I've said many times, do I have to put in these hours? No. I've said this many times. I follow the Alpha 2.0 business model. I could work literally 2 days a week and maintain my current income. My income would not grow, but I could maintain it. And I make a lot more money now than I did 20 years ago. So I could maintain that on 2 days a week, but I have big goals. I have a strong mission. There are certain financial objectives I want to hit by the time I reach age 53, age 54. I just turned 50. So I've got 3 more years at least of working very, very, very hard. And so I work. Now, do I blow my brains out? No, I want you to notice a few things in what I just said. First of all, I take an entire day off. An entire day off, I do virtually no work or no work. So that's 1 day off. So I only work 6 days. In those 6 days that I work, am I working literally all day long, 14, 15, 16, 17 hours? No. My morning routine takes several hours. I'm in a very strenuous weightlifting routine right now. That alone takes, 45 minutes, an hour, and I got to go to the gym to do it. So I'm spending a few hours in the morning not working, doing my morning routines. I spend some time at night doing a nighttime routine. That takes time. That's not work. Okay. Then I take 2 hours a day on top of the several hours it takes for my morning routine, and I spend that with my wife. Then throughout the day, I do take breaks. Now, I'm very careful and strategic about how I take breaks. When I talk about time management, I'll work for several hours, and then I'll take like a 15-minute break or a 20-minute break. Sometimes I'll time it with my phone to make sure my break doesn't go too long, and then I'll get back to work. So if you add all that up, there's a lot of time in my typical day I am not working. And the reason for that is I have to address the other areas of my life. If you've read my primary book, The Unchained Man at alphamalebook.com, I talk about the SLA, the 7 life areas. Let's see if I can remember them. You have 7 areas which you spend your time. You have your financial life, which is your work. You have your woman life, which is your dating life, relationship life, things like that. You have your family life. You have your physical life, your physical fitness, things like that, eating food, things like that. You have your recreational life. You have your social life, and you have your spiritual life, okay? Those 7 areas. When you decide to work 14, 15, 16 hours a day or whatever these giant numbers people whip out of their asses, the other areas of your SLA will eventually suffer. They will. That's just how it works. You're not going to be as healthy. You're not going to be as physically fit. Your relationships with the opposite sex are going to be more problematic. You won't have a lot of downtime with friends. You won't have a lot of recreational time. You really won't have a spiritual life. 100% of your life will be sucked up by your financial life. Now, that's okay. I've talked about this before. That's okay in certain phases of your life. There have been certain times in my life where I did work 70, 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week. I've done it. I've done it. But you don't want to do that long term in your life. You want to do it for a while, maybe 6 months or a year or what have you, when you're building a new business or something like that. You don't live your life that way, because if you do, you're not going to live a very happy life. Money is critical, but other things are very critical too, like physical health, particularly when you cross over the age of 40. Your relationships with other people is kind of important. That's kind of critical. I've talked about this again in my Alpha 2.0 content. So you don't have just this one thing called work that should consume your life. So when they talk about hustle culture and working 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's not a good idea. Long term. Short term, yes. Long term, no. But you still have to work hard. So what I'm telling you is basically these 2 arguments are extremes. These are extremes. So on one side, you have the lazy people who say, I don't want to have to work. This bullshit. Hustle culture is a bunch of crap. They're wrong. And on the other side, you've got the Grant Cardones, the Gary V's, and you have to work 14, 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, to get anything done in this world. That is also wrong. And it's not healthy long term. Which you wanted to, if you want to visualize these 2 extremes on one end of a scale. If you're listening to this podcast, I'll explain this visually. If you're watching the video, you can see my hands. So if you imagine a line, and on one extreme you have hustle culture, work 14 hours a day. The other extreme you have the lazy assholes. The sweet spot is about 30% in from the hustle culture guys. It's not in the middle. That's not right. If you are in the middle, then you're the typical average guy with the typical average 40-hour-a-week job, and you're screwed. You need to work harder than that, I'm sorry, especially get anything done in your life. So it's between the middle and the hustle culture guys. So go to the hustle culture extreme and back it off by about 25, 30%. That's the sweet spot. You have to work hard. You have to focus, but you have to address the other areas of your life for long-term happiness. I promise you that if I worked 14 hours a day, I would not live here in Dubai. I would still be in the United States. I wouldn't have any 5 flag stuff done because I'd be too busy working. And I know guys who have companies, or in some cases jobs, who make very high incomes, but they have no international aspect to their lives at all, so they're paying mountains of taxes. And I mean mountains. I'm including self-employed guys in there. Guys in the United States, guys in Western Europe in particular, they make very high incomes like I do, sometimes more than I do, but they get fucking slaughtered when it comes to taxes, which means their gross income is high, but their net income after taxes is pretty shitty compared to the hours that they're working. And the reason they're in that boat is because they spend all their time working all the goddamn time and not addressing 5 flags. And if you make a high income and you live in the Western world, you are literally stupid, in my opinion, if you don't do some sort of 5 flags. You're just dumb. I don't get the concept, but I've discussed this on past videos before. Yes, if you make $25,000 a year or $30,000 a year, and that's all you ever plan on making, which you shouldn't, but if that's all you ever plan on making, then I guess you could stay in your collapsing Western country and go down with the ship like everybody else. But if you make a high income because you're busting your ass, you owe it to yourself to keep as much of that income legally as possible after taxes. Makes sense. So 5 flags is one of those areas we won't address if you're busting your ass all the time. Not to mention all the men that I know who have fucked up kids, fucked up marriages, divorce after divorce after divorce, screwed up relationship lives, screwed up family lives, no spiritual life. They're overweight and fat and dumpy and they look like shit, or they're skinny fat and look like shit because they're working all the time. So the next time you hear on the internet, hey man, you got to hustle and grind 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, that person is wrong. And the next time you hear on the internet someone bashing hustle culture as some kind of scam or some kind of branding and it's just stupid, it's not required, that person is also wrong. The answer is somewhere in the middle, as it most often is with these extreme examples. I have a lot more to say about this, but it would get this podcast kind of convoluted. I want to keep this podcast focused on one topic. But if you want me to talk more about this, or you have specific questions on this, let me know, and I can certainly follow up on a future podcast regarding this topic. Cool. I'll see you next week. Bye.